part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another edition of the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast, brought to you by MGM Northfieldpark and right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout out to our esteemed producer, Dave Emmert, who makes sure everything sounds good for you in the podcatosphere. Happy holidays to all of you listening. And here's hoping, Reg, that our listeners had a better holiday than Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski did as we're taping this on Sunday than they did yesterday against the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field, huh?
Yeah, I certainly hope all of our listeners had a wonderful and joyous Christmas, and the Christmas season is going great for everybody. And yeah, Kenny, Santa and the Browns, they brought that big bag of gifts to Lambeau Field with them yesterday, and they decided to make sure it was a very cheery and special day of gift giving for the Green Bay Packers. Did they not?
Oh, my goodness gracious. Not one, not two, not three, but 4 interceptions by Baker Mayfield and very questionable play calling, in my opinion, Michael Regai, by Kevin Stefanski again against a very susceptible run defense who you were dominating with the run. And yet Nick Chubb carried the ball only 17 times. Maybe Baker Mayfield doesn't throw 4 picks if Kevin Stefanski elects to run the ball 36 times instead of throwing it 36 times. That's just me watching yesterday and then looking at the numbers.
Yeah, I know during the game yesterday, you were on that on the Twitter with regard to that. And I understand it. I think that sure, you're going to have to be able to throw the football effectively to go win on the road against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. But I'm with you. I would have liked to seen, because the Chubb run was effective yesterday. And, a couple times we've said here, the first halves in a couple of games here recently, they haven't run the ball at all. And it's put them in a position where they're going to have to throw when you're falling behind. But, yeah, I would have liked to seen that a little bit more, use the run game and have Chubb try to get the game in control that way, because Kenny, yesterday, the quarterback just wasn't accurate. He just wasn't efficient. And, I'm going to say, and it wasn't just the picks too. There were some throws that were just, should have been completed or should have been given opportunities for receivers to catch the football, Kenny, that wound up incomplete, that just have to be made by Baker Mayfield, because if that doesn't change and can't change, I think this might serve to make Andrew Berry's decision this offseason a little bit easier.
Yeah, as I was watching the game, Michael, he hadn't practiced all week long, had COVID, flies separately, gets there on did he get there Saturday morning? I think it was. Yeah, yesterday noon. Morning. So that's not normal. He's still playing hurt with that harness. He's been off for 2 weeks, right? And so for me, I'm just looking at that and I'm thinking, you know what? Let's not put it all on his shoulders and make him think he's got to go mano-a-mano with Aaron Rodgers on Christmas Day on national TV and try and keep up with him. Take the ball out of his hands, make Green Bay stop the run, which they didn't, as the Browns racked up 219 yards. And only throw when necessary. I tweeted out yesterday, 36 passes, 25 runs. I thought it should have been the other way around. And then when you look at the Colts yesterday and what they did in a big road win against Arizona, right? 33 runs, 28 passes. They rode their running back again, Jonathan Taylor, and helped set up Carson Wentz, who threw 2 touchdowns and no interceptions in the passing game. So and I understand the blame. There were horrible throws by Baker Mayfield yesterday. No question about it. Some very bad throws. And like you said, a couple that should have been intercepted that weren't. But Kevin Stefanski, I'm putting, as much on him because I just did not understand the game plan. And, the announcers were talking about it, especially on that last drive. You had 3 timeouts in your back pocket. And guess what? Kevin Stefanski still has 2 timeouts in his back pocket here a day after the game.
Can't let that happen. Just can't let that happen, bottom line, because, those are the type of things when you're playing. And again, Kenny, it's a shame to me. It makes the loss that much more bitter tasting because, I mean, if you would have told me before the football game that the Browns are going to hold, if you want, 24 points, first of all, right? And Aaron Rodgers right at 200 yards passing, not 300, not 350, right, which, we know, if hell, 400, he's very capable of on any given weekend that he plays. And, and almost 100 yards difference in total plus for the Browns. Total plus net yards. Yeah. 100 yards, just a shade under. I think it's 97 or 98, but you get my point. About 100 yards total more offense for the Browns. I'm telling you what, that's what? Well, first of all, I got to see that, number one. But number two, that's a win then. Browns going to win this football game. I mean, they're going to win this football game. If they're able to keep Rodgers and that Green Bay offense there in Lambeau Field, they're going to win this football game. But, not when the lack of efficiency, the lack of accuracy there in the pass game. And, Kenny, this is not to, this is not to take anything away from, I think Baker Mayfield, above all else, knows he's got to be much better than that. But, Ken, I'm looking at it, and I go back and, try to watch as well. And when they do give you an all-22, which you kind of really need, I tell you what, I'm starting to wonder about, just as a whole, this Browns receiving core as route runners.
Yeah.
As understanding, as maybe when they need to break off a route, not run it a yard or two short, not run it a yard or too long. And those are things that are difficult for us as we're watching on television. Okay, but you know what I mean. And again, this is not to deflect anything away from Baker Mayfield. I would hope he understands first and foremost. But I'm saying this now. I'm making this statement about the Browns receiving core, all of them, wide receivers, tight ends, all of them. I don't think they're, as a group, real good route runners and have a good understanding of how that position has got to be played to be successful.
Yeah, my partner, JT, who joins me every Monday through Friday on the Kenny and JT show on WHBC, agrees with you 100%, Reg. He's been saying that all season long, actually. And JT played at BW as a wide receiver, and he pointed it out to me numerous times. These guys, they don't run the right routes. They're not specific. They're ins and outs. They're breaks, coming back to the football and things of that nature. They just don't. Like yesterday, Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers, and I know they're two of the best players in the National Football League, okay? So maybe it's a bad example, but I'm going to still use it. You saw those guys, as soon as they saw who was guarding Davante Adams, you knew the ball was going there. LeCount, the kid from Cincinnati, the rookie, right? So the first time they read the way he's set up, they throw it over the middle, touchdown. The next time, I think it was somebody else who was guarding Adams. They went to the outside because of the way the defensive back was setting up, and they threw the back shoulder throw. So it's those things, Reg, that you just don't see. Now, granted, Baker's only been here, 4 years. Compared to, umpteen years for Aaron Rodgers there in Green Bay. But you would think there'd be some kind of chemistry building with at least one of those guys. It doesn't seem like there is. He was 1 for 6 going to Donovan Peoples-Jones this week and 1 for 5 last week, I think it was. So 2 for 11. And he's a guy you're hoping explodes. And twice he was held yesterday, so that interrupted the route. But still, you would hope something would start to click there if he's going to be a future guy on your team as a go-to guy. And it's not just him, though. Like you said, it's the entire receiving core, which includes the tight ends and the running backs.
Yeah, it does. I mean, look at yesterday again, and we say, well, there are 2 routes in particular in the fourth quarter, Kenny. They were, to me, just a square out about a 12 to 13 yarder, and also one that looked like it was kind of an over route where I'm talking about David Njoku.
Okay.
Now, Kenny, if you think about it and go back in your mind, Mayfield missed him on both throws wide. Okay.
Right.
But there again, are we 100% sure that Njoku flattened out the route too quickly? that he didn't run it at the yardage that is prescribed? See, Ken, those are the things we don't know. And I'm going to say for the third time, just so all of our listeners, please, I am not trying to excuse or deflect or take anything off of Baker Mayfield here. Right. But let's just say it this way then. Let's say a couple of those times the routes weren't run correctly. Well, that sure as hell makes it a whole lot harder for Baker Mayfield to make a throw. And anybody that, I mean, if you don't know that, then, you need to get to football 101 a little bit. Again, right, not to deflect away from him.
I'm going to back you up. I'm going to back you up with some stats. How about this? You're right on it. You're hitting the nail right on the head. I looked at this stat, and this is from Pro Football Focused. 17 Browns players played on offense yesterday, okay? Mm-hmm. And they grade them every week. They grade every player on offense, Pro Football Focus. Number one being the best player had the best game, and then in this case, 17 would have been the worst player on offense for the Browns. Donovan Peoples-Jones was ranked 15th out of 17 players, and David Njoku was ranked 16th. So there maybe backs up what you're saying about the route running, because those are things they take into consideration in Pro Football Focus when they grade these players. Peoples-Jones graded at a 50.5 and Njoku a 48.5. Terrible.
That's awful. And right now, Jarvis was back yesterday. And again, Kenny, going back to why we're bringing this up to, and we thought, and he was, one of the big problems for the last couple of years was how much do we hear about, finally came out, Odell Beckham Jr., he kind of ad-libs a hell of a lot of things that aren't necessarily the way the playbook shows the route to be run, right? Yep. And again, any quarterback, but the difference is guys like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, we'll just stay with those two right now. There are others, though, are going to say, hey, man, run the damn route properly at the yardage it's supposed to. I'm not going to even look at throwing the ball to you.
Yep.
Well, maybe it's time to Kevin Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt, if this is part of the problem. Okay. And I think at least there's a variance that it is, Ken. Then, you got to get this whole thing in check. Oh, check. I know there's only two more, but you got to get this cleaned up, because if that's part of the situation with Mayfield's inaccuracy issues, Ken, how in the world is this ever going to work where that it can be a significant plus for this football team to win games?
Reg, I don't know. They've got 2 games left, and here's the crazy thing about it. We'll get into this a little later. They still have a chance of winning the division, okay? As we're taping this, I'm looking at the scores right now, Reg, on a Sunday afternoon when we're taping this. Bengals 34, Ravens 20 in the fourth quarter. So if Cincinnati holds on, they will be all alone in first place, Michael. Let's see, at 9-6 will be the record. The Ravens will drop to 8-7. The Browns are 7-8. Okay. Yeah. Pittsburgh plays later on today against Kansas City. So Cincinnati controls its own destiny the rest of the way with games in the coming weeks against Kansas City and the Browns to close out. It could come down, Michael Reg, believe it or not, even at 7-8. It could come down to the final game of the season at First Energy Stadium in a head-to-head matchup between the Browns and the Bengals to see who finishes 9-8, or in Cincinnati's case, if they were to win 10-7 to win the division. Because if the Browns were to finish 9-8 and Cincy were to finish 9-8, then guess what? Browns win the tiebreaker. So as crazy as this sounds, they still have a chance to win the division, but can they get what you just explained to our listeners fixed in a week's time before they play in Pittsburgh next Monday night?
Ken, they've been going after it since late July?
Yeah. And
here it is still showing up at Christmas week. So I don't know. It's real bothersome to me, because that combination just isn't going to be a good thing. It's just not going to be a good thing, as we said. So, we both put it out there. I think we both agree on it. Kenny, a lot of this to me, if you watch, and we don't want to be too X and O and technical, but we have to when it comes to Baker, because I'm going to tell you why. Kenny, a lot of this is about his technique. His
boy.
footwork has gotten so sloppy with throwing the ball, Ken.
Is that because of injury, Reg? Do you think it's affecting him?
It's a good point. It could be. Is he compensating because he's injured?
Yeah.
But Kenny, his footwork is just all over the place.
Yeah.
His arm angles, and I know, say, well, a lot of the good ones, Rodgers, guys like that, but they'll change arm angles all the time. They'll throw it side. I get it. But those are guys that also don't allow all of the fundamentals of passing the football go completely, out the window. I just look at Baker sometimes, so he's got to get that right. He's got to get that cleaned up. He's got to get that right.
Yeah. Yeah, there are major issues with him. And I think the way he started the season before he was injured, so accurate in the first 2 weeks, 80% completion percentage. And ever since the shoulder injury, it's gone downhill. So I do think that is a big factor in this. Let's do this, Reg. Let's get a break in right now here on the Reg and Rhoda podcast brought to you by MGM Northfieldpark, and come back and we'll tackle this a little bit more with Baker. And I want to get into that final series because once again, the Browns couldn't close. And that's been the theme all season long with this football team. So we'll tackle that as well as Baker's mechanics and how that's affecting this entire team when we return to the R&R podcast right after this. Hey, the Roadman, Kenny Rhoda here, wanting to remind you about MGM Northfieldpark. They're your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing this week, Monday through Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday post time on those days, 6 p.m. And don't forget about Thursday, December 30th. Fans can enter to play Northfieldpark's handicapping contest from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Handicap races 3 through 12 to win cash. That top prize, $500. Open early every day for simulcast action. And remember, free admission and free parking every day at Northfieldpark.
Hey everyone, I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Jeremy Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need each week to get you ready for kickoff and beyond.
Don't miss our breakdowns of each week's matchups, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we all know, Holly, dogs got to eat.
That's right, Jeremy. Hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, it's Tito, host of the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Get all the news and analysis you need to dominate your fantasy league. I've been doing this as long as anybody in the business. I can help give you the edge in your leagues. It's the Premier Fantasy Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
And welcome back to the Reg and Rhoda podcast, brought to you by MGM Northfieldpark. And Thursday, December 30th, fans can enter to play Northfieldpark's handicapping contest from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Handicap races 3 to 12 to win cash. The top prize is $500. They're open every day for simulcast action. And don't forget, free admission, free parking every day at Northfieldpark. Michael Regai, Browns a loser 24-22 at Lambeau Field to the Green Bay Packers to fall under 500 at 7-8. And we'll get to the playoff possibilities coming up in a little bit here. But I want to go back once again, Michael, to something that reared its ugly head as it has all season long, the Browns' inability to close, whether it's the offense or the defense. When called upon, this team has not been able to close. The Browns have lost 6 games this season by 6 points or less, Michael. Think about that. They are 0-6 in 6 points or less games in which they lost. If they simply go 3-3 in those 6 games, right?
Yeah.
If they just play 500 football, they're 10-5 and atop this division and headed to the playoffs for the second straight year. I'm going to ask you this before we get into the particulars. Is there something you can put your finger on as to why this team can't close games, whether it's offense or defense?
Yeah, that's something that we're gonna. I've already started to try to take a look at it, and we're going to. And Kenny, it's certainly a lack at critical times of just overall execution, right?
Yep.
So where does that come from? You wanna put that 100% on the players who are the ones on the football field that have to get that accomplished, or not, or is there something with regard to the entire coaching staff, with how Kevin Stefanski and with him, his coordinators, right? Alex Van Pelt and Joe Woods. When they get a lead, do they tighten up? Do they start to think about the week before or 2 weeks before that they didn't close? Ken, as you said, 6.
Yep.
6. Now, come on. What winning team that has large accomplishment in the National Football League does not close 6 football games in the fourth quarter that they should or went into with an opportunity to? So I don't know. Again, are guys playing tight? You tell me. Are they playing? That's what I look at first again, because it's something you've been doing. You know what the scheme is. You know what you're looking to execute. Are they playing tight? Are they playing to try to find the easiest way to hang on and win? And Kenny, another thing, and this kind of moves to offense more, have there been times, how many times of those 6 would you say they stopped being aggressive? They stopped offensively being aggressive. And does that then, look at all these tentacles we got, Ken, is that saying Kevin Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt with a lead, they worried about their quarterback in the fourth quarter being able to not turn the football over? If they say, well, we're up 7, we're up 8, we're up 10.
Right.
I don't know if I trust him because we know Baker's got that gun. He is. He'll take shots, right? As he thinks his arm is going to allow him to throw in tight windows and at times into double coverage and give a guy a chance to make a play. I will say all the best ones that we've ever seen in the NFL, they all have that mentality, right, Ken? You almost have to play the game, or I don't know how you can be successful as a quarterback. However, you have to know game situation too when it's time to back that off some. So again, tell coaches, what do you think? Stefanski?
All of the above.
All of it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say Woods. I'm going to say Stefanski. I'm going to say Baker Mayfield, Miles, all of the above, because sometimes it's been the offense. Other times it's been the defense. Here are the games, Reg. Kansas City, they lost 33-29. Baker interception at KC 42 with 1:16 left. They led by 9 in the fourth quarter.
Opening game, right?
Yep. Chargers, 47-42 loss. Incomplete pass on 4th and 10 at their own 46 with 14 seconds left. Browns led 27-13 at the half, 42-35 late in the fourth quarter.
Ken, excuse me, not to interrupt. That, Ken, to me, that one really hurt. If you're asking me about, Ken, they were going to go to 4-1 there.
Yep.
Right? Am I right?
Yep.
I think so. I'm not looking at that. They won 3 in a row after the opening day loss to KC. They were going to go to 4-1 there.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and by the way, the Chargers are losing today as well, and they've been up and down, but came back and beat the Browns in that game.
Right.
They lose to Pittsburgh 15-10, incomplete pass on 4th and 12 at the Steelers 26. Now, here's the thing. Okay, they had to punt there. Minute 58 left. Pittsburgh able to run out the clock on the Browns defense to seal that win 15-10. Baltimore game, they lose 16-10. 7-yard completion on on 4th and 10 at their own 25. So they needed 10. They complete a 7-yard pass, turn it over on downs. They never led in that game. Vegas, they lose 16-14 on a walk-off field goal. They led 14-13 with 3:45 left. And then yesterday, Baker, with another chance late in the game, had the ball, 3rd and 10 at the Green Bay. Where were they? They were at midfield, and he throws a pick at the Green Bay 40-yard line with 50 seconds left, and they still had 3 timeouts left. And that's where I want to go, Michael, and this is what bothered the hell out of me. I get you might want to throw the ball there, but your most effective offensive player in the game, running the football, and he had a huge catch early in the game, too, catching the football, Nick Chubb, the most explosive offensive player you have. Your season is on the line. It's 1st down and 10, okay? And you've got 3 timeouts left. You ran for 4, 10, and 4 yards. He caught another pass for 7 yards and a 1st down. He's not on the field for the final 3 plays of the damn game. How is that possible when Kareem Hunt's hurt? He's out. And yeah, Dearness Johnson had a nice 30-yard run. I get it. But even as a decoy, to make that defense think that he might get the ball on a handoff, play action, or a screen pass. He's standing on the damn sidelines. What is Stefanski doing in that situation? Can you explain to me on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down where they threw it each and every one of those times, your best player standing on the sideline?
No explanation for it, Ken. I mean, just none. And it's almost, just inexplicable. And I believe that Kevin Stefanski's got to answer to that much more than just to say. And you know what? And I look back at it and I went, all year long, it's kind of been, if Chubb touches the football 3 times in a row, they'll usually, sub him out to give him a blow. Okay. But, to that end, Kenny, you know what? In that situation, too, and I'm not blaming the man. He's the best. He's the best. I've said a million times how much I love him. You know what? I'm going to put my hand up over to Stefanski and Van Pelt. No, I'm good. I'm good.
I agree
Meaning,
with you 100%.
You going to try to send Dearness Johnson in? No, I'm good.
Reg, you have to want to play in those situations, right? You have to sometimes. I know you don't want to be questioning your coach or making him look bad, but you got to go up to him, coach, hey, call timeout. Give me a breather though. Okay. Give me a breather then, but you got to have me on the field here. We can run this down there, throw it. And I know it would have been very interesting, I guess is the best way to put it, if it came down to a field goal to win that game with Nagar, however you pronounce his name, the rookie, was his first game, right? But that's the play there, Michael. You've got to take that chance of setting up your kicker who you picked to be the backup and you activated for that game. And yes, he missed an extra point earlier, but he hit a field goal and an extra point later in the game. That's the play. Get in field goal range and hope that your kicker can come through. You've got to at least give your kicker a chance there. And for them to throw the ball 3 consecutive times with a quarterback who had already thrown 3 picks and you had 3 timeouts left and you had run for 219 yards at that point and your best players on the sideline, that to me, that's why I'm more upset with Kevin Stefanski than I am with Baker Mayfield in this game.
I've told you about the last few weeks. I think that, and I know last week he didn't coach a football game, at least not from on site.
Right.
But again, he's into question with me because, I mean, what we just talked about a moment ago, you got 6 football games that, just be 3-3 in them. Right. And you should be good. But I mean, it's a whole thing here, Kenny. You don't like some of the things I think they do get away from Nick Chubb a little bit too much. And you know what? I'm not taking him off the field just because he's touched it 3 straight times. If he wants to come off the field, then he can come over, say, hey, I need a blow. Okay, fine. That's
one
fine.
play,
but
Michael, fine.
But not until. And to keep him off the football field 3 consecutive times? No. I mean, again, this stuff that's probably not going to get cleaned up in the next 2 weeks, Ken. And here they are. They still got an opportunity. Now they need a lifeline here. We know that. They got to win 2 football games, and first things first, you got to go into Heinz Field and win, and then see if that 2 weeks from today means something when Joe Burrow comes to town. But, they've got so much to clean up, Kenny, in the offseason with their approach and their ability to close games and the whole deal. And who knows? I mean, hey, and how about, we'll get into this when the season ends, but how about, now I think Andrew Berry is going to come into, much greater play because I'm just saying, I think he has some decisions to make, Ken, on personnel.
Yeah. And now you have to wonder, and I was one of the people saying this, okay, that they're a better offense without Odell Beckham Jr. because Odell's, freelancing and doing all that stuff. And maybe he didn't really want to be here. And obviously he didn't. He got out. But guess what? I'm just looking at my phone. He just caught another touchdown pass from Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, he did. That's 5, I think. I believe. I believe it's 5 or
somewhere in that
somewhere in there in his 7th game, 8th game with I think he's only not caught one in one game.
So you wonder, was it Stefanski not going to his number one receiver with play calls? Was it Baker not throwing the ball to him? Was it OBJ running the wrong routes, which is a possibility because he's a freelance guy?
He is.
But still, you look at this was a team that a lot of people had at least going to the playoffs, if not the AFC Championship game this year. I did, right? And they're on the verge of, forget about not making the playoffs, finishing under 500 this year, Reg. With one more loss, they're guaranteed an under 500 season.
How about that?
How about that? 17-game season, right?
Yes. And again, did we say this last week? And again, son Cal and I were talking about it. Last year, they come in, Kenny, to the 2012, really little expectations, right?
Yep.
Browns probably, maybe they're a 500 team. Going to be tough to make the playoffs, and boom, they do that 11-5 number. This year, the world of expectations, right?
Yep.
We've been discussing every week while they're sitting here right now at 7-8. All the expectations, all of you want to say the pressure, and because they're expected to. Well, it hasn't happened. So I don't know, man. You tell me, right? I mean, you tell me what this is. We brought it out. Are they incapable, just as a whole, coaches and players, when the pressure is on and when the expectations are high, of getting the job done, Kenny? Is that fair? Is that something we got to look at?
Yes, absolutely. Without question. You've got to look from top, meaning Andrew Berry selecting the players, to bottom, the last guy on the 53-man roster or the COVID expanded practice squad roster, whatever it is, and the crunch time situations and, this team's inability to close. Baker 0 for 5 in opportunities to win games late. The Browns defense, at least twice in late games, couldn't get off the field and allowed the opposing team to either score or run out the clock.
Yep.
So it's a total team meltdown in those areas as to why this team is currently sitting at 7-8 with 2 games left. And Michael, we got to get our final break in right here. We'll come back. We mentioned it, 7-8, but they still have a chance. It's funny. It's laughable that they still have a chance, but that's the way the AFC North is. And 41-21 now, Bengals leading the Ravens. Joe Burrow's thrown for 449, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and there's still about 8 minutes to go in that game. But the Bengals well on their way to being all alone in first place. Sure. And how about that? Zach Taylor looking at that secondary.
Say it again. Zach Taylor?
Yeah, Zach Taylor, right?
That head coach.
Yeah, that head coach down in Cincinnati looking at that Ravens defense and saying their secondary's banged up and they lost another guy during the game. Let's throw the ball against them because they can't stop the pass as opposed to running it. Yesterday, the Browns running for 9 yards a carry. Your head coach, Kevin Stefanski, says, let's throw the ball 36 times instead of trying to run for 300 yards in the victory. So as we've been pointing out during this podcast, a lot of problems with the Browns. So close, but yet so far away. And we'll come back and see how close they are maybe to making the playoffs or how far away they'll finish in not making the playoffs, depending on what happens down the stretch in the final 2 games.
Hey everyone, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. Backed by popular demand, I'm excited to let you know that new episodes of the Hyman Podcast will drop every other Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're going to continue the conversations we started last season and keep having those hard conversations. There is so much in store for you this season, and I'm excited to share it with you. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single moment. The Hyman Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, it's Tito, host of the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Get all the news and analysis you need to dominate your fantasy league. I've been doing this as long as anybody in the business. I can help give you the edge in your leagues. It's the Premier Fantasy Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And final segment of the Reg Eye and Rhoda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, brought to you by MGM Northfieldpark. Looking for something to do, want to have some fun? Head on out to MGM Northfieldpark. Tell them Reg Eye and Rhoda sent you. Michael, we look back at the 24-22 loss to the Packers yesterday to put the Browns under 500 at 7-8, which means 2 games left in this first ever 17-game regular season schedule. Mm-hmm. And we're just going to assume, and I know what can happen when you assume things, Michael, but
yes,
while we're taping this, the Bengals seem to be, and now it's 47-21. So we don't need to assume. The Bengals have beaten the Ravens today as Joe Burrow's almost thrown for 500 yards. So the Bengals will be your first place team heading into the final 2 weeks of the season, Michael, at 9-6. The Baltimore Ravens will be in second place all by themselves at 8-7, and the Browns in third place currently at 7-8, because the Steelers will play later today after we're done taping this. The Steelers are 7-6-1. I'm expecting Pittsburgh to lose at Kansas City. So if that's the case, Pittsburgh would be 7-7-1 and a half game ahead of the Browns. So the Browns will enter next week more than likely in last place in the AFC North. Even, let's see, if the Steelers lose, if they win. Yeah. So any way you look at it, Browns are going to be in last place entering next week. Okay. Here are the remaining games left for all the teams in the AFC North. Bengals, home game against Kansas City next week. Close it out at Cleveland in game 17. Baltimore, 2 home games left. The Rams and the Steelers. Pittsburgh at Kansas City later today after we're done taping here. They've got the Browns on Monday night, and they are at Baltimore to close out the season. And your Browns at Pittsburgh on Monday night, and they have the Bengals at home. So what has to happen is, first and foremost, Browns need to finish 9-8. So that means they've got to beat both Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. And with the Bengals winning today, they need the Bengals to lose next week to Kansas City to have any shot at winning the division. If the Bengals win next week, that will cancel out the Browns having any chance of winning the division. And their wild card hopes at 9-8 are very, very slim, Michael. The Colts won yesterday. Tennessee won yesterday. Buffalo currently is leading New England, but you lost the tiebreaker to New England if that were to come into play in a wild card situation. Yeah. So the road to the playoffs for the Browns is through the AFC North in these final 2 weeks. And unfortunately for them, no, not unfortunately for them, they put themselves in this position. They don't control their own destiny, Michael. They need a lot of help like they did back in 2002 when they needed 6 teams to lose on the final day when they beat Michael Vick and the Atlanta Falcons, to get into the playoffs for the first time. So that's the scenario, gang neighbors, that has to happen for the Browns.
Yeah, and that's again, that's a lot of too much help being needed, Kenny, and a lot of things that have to happen. They put themselves in this own situation. So they can control 2 things. They can control going to Heinz Field and winning and beating the Steelers. And then 2 weeks from today, they can control if there's a lot at stake, could be, as you just laid out. They can control beating Joe Burrow and Cincinnati, which we know ain't going to be easy. Either one of them, quite frankly. But that's all they can control, Ken. So it's kind of to worry about all the other stuff and want all that other stuff to happen. what's the percentage chances all those things you mentioned are going to happen? Probably not good that's going to be 100% because this is the NFL, as we know.
Right.
So, man, it's a situation, but don't start blaming other people. Look in the mirror. Again, we went through it in this. We've given you 6 good reasons why they're in this positioning as not being able to close out wins that you should have.
Right.
So, right. It's on them. You Bill Parcells, baby, you are what your record says you are.
Yeah. Hey, correction. They went to replay and overturned a touchdown pass from Joe Burrow. So it's still 41-21 Bengals over the Ravens in the fourth quarter, but I'm not worrying too much. I just wanted to get that out there for all the social media police that might be listening out there to say we gave them a wrong score. We'll update that as we go along here. But Michael, I look at this. Can they beat? Yes, Pittsburgh's not very good. Okay. And
you haven't liked them all year long.
Right.
And that's
they're hanging around some. Well, the Browns gifted them a win and Tennessee gifted them a win. Okay.
Yeah.
So right there, instead of, they should be 5-8-1, but there were early Christmas presents from the Titans and the Browns giving them victory. So they're not good. So that's a winnable game on Monday night. It is. And we talked about this before we started taping today's podcast. For whatever reason, the Bengals, I don't want to say they own the Ravens this year, but they put up 41 points on them, already today, and they're on their way to another victory against them. So when they play head-to-head, hey, you say, you know what? I'm taking Cincinnati. For whatever reason, the Browns, Baker Mayfield, there's one team that he's comfortable against, right? If there's one team that you want to say he owns, it's the Cincinnati Bengals in his career. He's either 5-1 or 6-1, including a blowout win, their only blowout win really earlier this year. So there are 2 winnable games on the schedule for the Cleveland Browns. Question is, can they find a way to close both of them, one on the road at Pittsburgh and a homer against Cincinnati?
But with the way they're playing, Ken, can you yourself say that you feel real confident about them playing the type of football that necessitates them winning those 2 football games? Because we're not seeing. I'm not because we're not seeing it. We haven't seen it just at shall we say various sporadic times this year.
Right.
They're not a consistent football team. That's why they are where they are. They've played the 2. I mean, only you went through all of them. But again, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, only 2 of the losses they got their butts just destroyed. The Arizona home game, right?
Yep.
And at New England. Was there another one that I'm missing? They got ripped up by Arizona, and they got ripped up by the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick. And other than that, there you go. There's those 6 losses that 6 points or less. So I'm just not confident, Kenny, that they can play. They don't seem to put complementary football together real well. Yesterday, again, we said at the first segment, overall, I was pretty damn pleased with the way the defense played.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, what more can you expect in Lambeau Field against Aaron Rodgers?
Some of it might have.
You're going to hold them to 7 or 10?
Right.
That ain't happening. That ain't happening. Nobody. That ain't happening.
They might have benefited from his little toe acting up in the second half. They were being a little more conservative. But still, you hold them to 24 points, and they're one of the top scoring teams in the entire league on their home field where they've only lost twice. In their new coach's tenure, LaFleur's tenure, that's pretty good. That gives you a chance to win. And they had, again, Reg, they had a chance to win. Ball at midfield, 50 seconds to go. Give yourself a field goal opportunity. Yeah, the rookie kicker in his first game might have missed it. And you probably didn't feel real confident about it. But as I tweeted out, who did you have more confidence in yesterday, Baker Mayfield or the rookie kicker in that situation who made 1 bad play that cost you 1 point, whereas Baker Mayfield made 3 bad plays prior to that cost you 21 points? Yeah. And, Ken, and I'm glad, kudos to both of us. I think you might have meant, but we haven't said much about, because as we know, after I was kind of tuning around yesterday and also, reading and, there was officials were a big point of contention for Browns and Browns fans, and especially that
Look, I forgot who it was now already, but did on that very last play, the third down play, the fourth pick.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be a flag? Well,
yes, absolutely.
Of course it is.
Yep.
Of course it is. And I think, hell, Aikman was telling you that right then. Even he came, I have no idea how they don't throw a flag there.
Right.
But see, that having been said, what about all the other components that you and I talked about you shouldn't have yourself in a situation like that. And then who's to say anyway that you're going to be successful in putting whatever points on the board to win the football game? Right. I'm not going to say that's 100%, gives you better opportunity. Sure. But you know what I mean, Kenny.
Yeah, no, Reg, there were too many other things that the Browns didn't do well to say that's the reason they lost the game. Did it hurt them? Yes. Was Baker right in arguing for the call and DPJ as well? Yes. But you know what? There was a lot of tugging and hand pulling going on both ways throughout the entire game. Right. In that situation, you would like to see the referees not be afraid to throw the flag. And Michael, I'll just throw this your way. Maybe it's a lack of respect by the officials with the Browns, right? Maybe that comes into play as well when you always hear it, Pro Bowl players, all-star caliber players, good teams tend to get calls and the bad ones don't. And maybe that came into play there as well. As you're at Lambeau, it's Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Hey, man, the Packers, they're the better team. That wasn't a hold. Yeah, they'll probably get reprimanded, the officials who worked that game afterwards. But in that situation, maybe that came into play.
Could have. Yeah, no question about it. I mean, of course, they're going to scream to high heaven that that's never the case in the National Football League. Right. And then we don't ever, again, you just said it. Might that officiating crew tomorrow, Tuesday, might they get reprimanded? But we never know about that. That never comes out or is made public.
Right.
So listen, I've seen worse, Kenny, go against the Browns than that game. I'm talking about the whole 60 minutes yesterday. And of course, when it comes down to that last situation like that, that always gets blown up. We know that. Yeah, should have. Of course, that's PI. That's either could have been two times, really.
Yep.
To PI first and then the defensive hold second on the same play. They decided not to throw it on it. But again, if the Browns are playing, the type of complimentary football that we've talked about for an hour here today, a lot of times you just can't put yourself in that position. And I don't have a lot of confidence that it's going to be able to get things done in fourth quarters when points are needed, Ken. What do we have to go on that's going to happen?
Yeah, I don't know, Reg. And they're at Pittsburgh, and they've got the Bengals at home to close out. So they have to take care of that first. And can they do that along with getting the other help that they need? The chances are slim. Now, I'm not going to say none. I'll just say slim, right? Never say never. I've learned that throughout my years doing sports talk radio and that. Never say never anymore. But they need everything to break their way. Nobody else to go on COVID. Nobody else to get hurt, to win their last two games. And then the Bengals to lose to Kansas City. The Ravens to lose to either the Rams or Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh to lose today against Kansas City. And then you beat them yourself. So there's a lot of components that go into them getting in the playoffs this year as divisional winners. Are they mathematically eliminated from wild card? No, not mathematically, but as hard as that road is to win the AFC North, it's harder to get in as the wild card, it looks like right now.
It is. And then, Ken, to put the Christmas bow on this, not the one we're all looking for. And it's frustrating. It's disappointing because, again, we said expectations. The belief was that this was a football team. Hell, many people thought that they could get to the Super Bowl, Ken, as the champions of the AFC.
Yep.
Many did. I thought I had them down at about, 10-7, 11-6. Well, if they were that, again, they're going to be where they need to be, at least giving themselves a shot at playoff time. So expectations were there. And this Browns organization from the top on down did not play with the type of consistency and result, of course, needed to do that and fulfill all of that. So, good luck. And we'll see what next, if this thing does not result in that you just laid out wonderfully well, what it's going to take. As I said, I think I said it last week, big spotlight now on Andrew Berry, who we both like very, very much, but you can't come back with this group. No. You cannot come back. And I'm not just talking about the quarterback, number 6. Right. You cannot come back with this group as it stands. I think there's got to be some, I won't say drastic, Ken, but I think Andrew Berry's going to have to, really look at himself and say, do I need to make some critical changes here? And I think the answer to that is yes.
Without question, Reg. And as I'm looking at the scores as we're about to wrap up here, the Bills with a commanding 33-21 lead now on the road at New England with 2:30 left. So the Bills turning their season around. Cream starting to rise to the top, right? As we expected, the Bills and probably the Chiefs and the Browns, Michael. Those 3 teams to be battling, right, in the AFC for maybe the top spot or at least an AFC championship game appearance. Well, the Bills and Chiefs have been playing well as of late. The Browns have not. And that's why the Browns are in dire straits right now, heading into the final 2 weeks of the regular season.
Yeah, we'll see. So they've got we get today's Sunday. I get all confused, Ken, during the holidays, what the day of the week is. So, but the Browns are playing a week from tomorrow night, Monday night football in Heinz Field. So, they had 9 days now. 9 days out. At this team, though, try to figure this team out, Ken, I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent for them. To have 9 days off. I don't know.
Maybe during those 9 days, Kevin Stefanski can use those 2 timeouts he took with him from Lambeau Field as a Christmas present yesterday. Huh? Maybe he'll find a way to use them during practice this week, since they were, so important to him that he wanted to walk out of Lambeau Field, not only with the loss, but 2 timeouts instead of running the damn football there yesterday.
I like that thought, buddy. When they go good on good, if they go good on good and actually, hit and go, maybe you can use those too.
There you go.
And implement them and have them help them in Heinz Field. I don't know. That's a bad look right there, baby.
It sure
when
is.
You're behind in the fourth quarter and have timeouts in your pocket. Sorry, bad look.
Yeah, not good at all. All right, Reg, happy holidays to you.
You too, buddy. All
the
best.
family.
Thank you. You too.
We'll do this either late Monday night after the Steelers game or, that Tuesday. We'll check with our esteemed producers, but we'll break down that Steelers-Browns game for everybody. And if they lose there, Dandy Dawn will be singing that night when we do that podcast. All right?
You got that right. Happy holidays. Have a great holiday season for everybody. Appreciate you listening. Thank you.